The little boy was caught by his brother's baseball cap. Lost his life on the spot. K.E. married rich card Rob. However, that night, when the eldest son takes the initiative to hug his dad, Dad took out a fruit knife to avenge the younger son. Fortunately, my mother, Xiao Mei, came over in time. He desperately blocked his husband. I want to take the fruit knife from his hand. As a result, she was knocked unconscious by her husband. When little Mei wakes up, husband and son found missing. He hastily looked everywhere. Until the basement. I just found out that my husband had a knife stuck in him. Long dead. The eldest son, standing in the doorway of the basement with a pale face. Xiao Mei asked her son who did it. The son stared straight at him without answering. He stretched out his hand and called to his son. But my son just took 2 steps. Xiao Mei hurried down to the basement, but found no one here. And there are no other exits at all. He doesn't know what's going on. How did the little son disappear out of thin air? I have no choice but to call the police. Police found after investigating the house. Mei is the only living person in this house. And the knife on the husband. Only beautiful fingerprints. According to conclusive. Xiao Mei sentenced to 30 years in prison. Until 2011. The aged Xiao Mei was released. Xiao Mei decides to go back to her former home. Looking at the haunted house. The monstrous breath is blowing. Despite the horror. But he has to come back. Because he firmly believes that he must still be alive. A priest suddenly visits. Ask the United States the truth of the year. Mei lifts the candle and takes the priest to the basement. And the basement is full of wall made of stones and mud. There are no other secret doors and tunnels at all. It is puzzling that. How did the eldest son disappear out of thin air? Xiao Mei told the priest. This weird house. The night before my husband's accident, horrible things happened. The distance between the 2 countries is late. As soon as you get home, the eldest son shouted that he was hungry. But they are too poor. There is no food at home. Xiao Mei took off the pearl from the ring and handed it to the boss. And told him if he wished on the pearl. Fulfill all wishes. Then the eldest son went back to his room. Husband finally came home late at night. Because no money. Xiao Mei quarreled with him for a few words. Husband left the room angrily. But he just left. The door handle of the bedroom turned violently. I can see my husband through the window. Who would have knocked on the door just now? Xiao Mei froze in place, helpless. At this time, the person outside the door opened the lock. Before Xiao Mei arrived tremblingly. I want to see who is outside through the crack of the door. And there's nothing outside. He picked up the scissors on the table and slammed towards the door. Finally scared away the people outside. Xiao Mei hurriedly locked the door. Can't breathe. At this time, the eldest son walked out of his room. Passing by mom's door. He seemed to hear his mother yelling something inside. Just when he was about to enter the door to ask. Hear the child's cry. Xiao Mei hurriedly ran out of the room. Come to the door of the eldest son and ask. That the eldest son doesn't know what's wrong. Life and death do not open the door. Xiao Mei had to go to the first floor to find a spare key. By the way, I took a fruit knife for self-defense. When he opened the door of the eldest son told him that the name just now was not him. After hearing this, Xiao Mei hurried to her younger son's room. Little son said, I don't know what happened to my brother. Suddenly ran to his room. I heard him jump. Xiao Mei thinks the house is too weird. Choose to call the police. After the police inspect the whole house, no trace of a third person was found. They even think that Xiao Mei is mentally ill. That's why they call the police. The police just left. The eldest son came to his mother, handed him a note. It turns out that he also met the mysterious man last night. The mysterious man told him, don't play with your brother. And this note was left to the beauty by the mysterious man. It says his husband will kill his children. After listening to Xiao Mei's memories, the priest also thinks there is something wrong with the house. Decided to go to the archives, inquire about housing-related information. This is a very strange haunted house. Nearly 100 years. Only those who have lived in the villa will disappear mysteriously. And his builder when the house was built. The whole family disappeared overnight. Later, relatives gave it cheap and inherited the villa. I never thought about January 11th in 30 years. The relatives who lived in the villa also disappeared. The government sells the haunted house cheaply. Xiao Mei's husband is cheap. Came back at a low price. 30 years ago here. The priest who read the information found that this haunted house is every 20 years. Weird things will happen. And now the little beauty in the villa. 80 years of distance. The other side. The moment Xiao Mei looked up in front of the mirror, suddenly I found someone in the mirror. He has a fruit knife in his hand. Looking at Xiao Mei without saying a word, Xiao Mei hurriedly locked people. A few minutes. See no movement outside. Xiao Mei quietly opened the door. Hallway bedroom. I saw the room was turned over in a mess. Even more bizarre is that dressing table is now a rule. 6 numbers written with. Is it super sticky? While Beauty is contemplating. The little Beauty screamed and wanted to drive away each other. But the door was still knocked open. Then came 2 policemen. Just when Xiao Mei was at a loss, the priest finally came. He told Xiao Mei the results of the investigation. Mysterious number inference on the combined mirror. This villa will be on tonight at 11 hours 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Strange things happen again. But the priest knows what. Maybe in what happened to Xiao Mei 30 years ago. Clues can be found. Xiao Mei told God. The day my son died. He put the note that said husband would kill son, to the husband. The content of the note. Pure nonsense. Xiao Mei wanted to move out of the villa, but the husband thought he was too sensitive to agree. The eldest son didn't follow the note's report. Playing baseball with my brother. As a result, my brother really lost his life. Funeral the next day. The eldest son made a wish on the pearl with tears. Medicine. Friend Chubby moves comfort. In the future, his younger brother will accompany him. But that night, the eldest son has mysteriously disappeared. Take off the cross on the neck and give it to Xiao Mei. But Mei said he couldn't reconcile with God. The priest handed the cross to Xiao Mei. Consolation. In the eyes of children, is there God? Maybe this frame can bless him tonight. It's a special time. It's 1:11 p.m. Sudden power outage in the living room on the first floor. Strange footsteps came from the stairs. Xiao Mei came upstairs. Take out the spare key to open the bedroom door. Unexpectedly, there are not only people in the room. Even locked the door with an anti-theft chain. Looks like the mysterious man. This time he decided not to back down. Reach out and grab the person in the house. Xiao Mei suddenly understands herself. The woman in the bedroom is who she was 30 years ago. She was overwhelmed. Only leave temporarily. At this time, the eldest son just came out of the room. Xiao Mei took the opportunity to hide in the room. Suddenly the little son screamed in the bedroom. Frightened eldest son. I hurried back to my room. 30 years later, Xiao Mei finally met her son. To gain great trust, Xiao Mei said the pearl that only he knew. The eldest son finally believes. The old grandmother. Her future mother. He walked over in disbelief, stroking mom's cheek. Hug mom tightly. Xiao Mei's tears welled up. To prevent the tragedy from happening again, he told the eldest son, "Don't play with your brother recently." I didn't wait for my son to speak. Then he took out another. Entrust the son to the current mother. And told him not to peek at the contents of the note. The eldest son nodded vigorously. Then asked the mother, "What will I do when I grow up?" "You'll be a great baseball player." This is great motherly love. Never forget to encourage your children. When the eldest son looked at the pearl in his hand, Xiao Mei has disappeared from the room. Looking at the cluttered room of the eldest son, Xiao Mei seems to understand the secret of the villa. Just when he opened the door to leave, an old man suddenly appeared behind. I saw him with a fruit knife in his hand, staring straight at Xiao Mei. Then go straight to the basement. Xiao Mei hurriedly took the candle and followed. The old man suddenly stopped. To Xiao Mei, she called her mother. Xiao Mei felt strange. Then the old man stretched out his hand. In his hand is the pearl he gave to his eldest son. At this moment, Xiao Mei understands. This sloppy old man is his eldest son. Eldest son says he's from 30 years into the future. He doesn't know how to explain it. Only 20 years. He prayed at the funeral for his brother to be reborn. And that night, he went into his brother's room and found my brother was sitting on the bed with the sheets covered. The eldest son did not know. I was carried away by the mysterious power of the house. The day before my brother's accident, he thought his brother was really alive. Holding my brother tightly, crying and apologizing. He also gave the pearl to his brother. An instant effort. Brother disappeared. The eldest son hurried to tell his father the news that my brother is alive. But what he didn't know was, in fact, the father in front of him is just his stepfather. And the dead brother is the stepfather's own flesh and blood. That explains the night. Why did the stepfather want to hug his eldest son to death? Fortunately, Xiao Mei arrived in time. Saved the life of the eldest son. Stepfather knocks out mother. chasing the eldest son to the basement. And here is the weirdest part of the house. The old man suddenly put the fruit knife into Xiaomei's hand. It turns out that the eldest son 30 years ago got a serious heart attack. The medical level of the time. There is no cure for the disease. Eldest son pleads with mother to lose stepfather. Bring your younger self to 2011. The present time. Xiaomei finally understands herself. Why the murder weapon of the husband have their own fingerprints. Now he's very troubled. If you leave the eldest son 30 years ago, he wouldn't have to endure the pain of 2 bereavements, maybe avoid jail time. If that is true, the eldest son in the 1980s will die of illness. In the end, maternal love triumphs over reason. Xiaomei chose to sacrifice herself. Bring the wind of youth to 2011. This is me 30 years ago, witnessing the scene of my son's disappearance. In the end, Xiaomei chose, with my own 30 years of pain, in exchange for the peace of the eldest son's life. The next morning, the priest comes to the villa again. He went into the eldest son's room, opposite his palm. At this moment, the eldest son recognizes the middle-aged priest in front of him. It was my best playmate 80 years ago. In the end, Xiaomei entrusted her son to God. As Xiaomei didn't save her life, isolation to track and know. Because he knows, as long as the kids are all right, is the greatest joy. This is a movie released in 2013. House at the End of Time. The whole play revolves around crossing memories and time loops as film themes. Someone said, this is a horror film that shows the good and evil of human nature. Although the son and stepfather are not related by blood, that it won't hurt the hand. Someone else said, this is a terrifying tearjerker movie. When an elderly mother crosses, still don't forget to encourage my son. This is the mother's love. What will happen when we reach the end of time? Is death, is dark, still a cycle? If there is such a, what do you hope it will be?